Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name's Alex and you are watching BC Adventure. Today we're going to be revisiting the Pi-hole Docker installation. I've gotten quite a bit of feedback in the comments section on my last video, letting me know that some of you had some issues. So we're gonna go through the comments section and one by one address each issue that people have had. So how I'm going to do this is I'm actually going to remove the Docker container that I installed and personally use. I'm going to make sure all the settings are wiped and clear so that when we do a fresh installation, we're going to walk through each problem and try and troubleshoot it for the community. I want this to be successful for all of you. I want you to feel confident going into watching one of my videos that you are going to be successful in completing what we started. Now, are there failures? Of course. I'm not perfect. I'm still learning. I'm still evolving as a tech enthusiast, and I get things wrong. And when I do, I always leave them in. I never leave anything out that I don't think would be useful, or like if I fail, I want you guys to see that. I want you to see that it happens. And it's something that I learn from, and when I do learn from it, I always post the end results, making sure that I'm updating the community, keeping you guys posted and up to date on my experience with putting all of this together. So with that being said, let's jump over to the Unraid dashboard and let's start getting some of this stuff figured out. And hopefully we can get a bunch of questions answered for everyone. So let's jump right into it. All right, first thing first, let's get this Docker container removed. So I'm going to remove that entirely. And then I'm going to go over to my plugins and I'm going to open the cleanup app data application, and I'm going to make sure that Pi-hole is completely removed. Sometimes you have to do it more than once. And then for good measure, I'll give it a refresh. Nothing in there. Okay. Let's go over to our shares. Oh, wrong one. Open up app data. And we're going to search for Pi-hole right there. And I'm just going to delete that folder, because I want to make sure this is, in fact, a fresh installation. Going to go back over to the applications folder or tab, and we're going to search for the Pi-hole container. And we're going to use the binhex official. This is the one that I previously had installed. So one of the questions that I got here was, do we have a unbound container? So how to integrate unbound with the container as well. So there is an unbound container that you can install. I am unfamiliar with unbound, so it's something that I have not used. So maybe we'll touch base on that in another video. But the container we are going to be using is the Pi-hole one. So the first comment that we're covering is how to integrate unbound with the container as well. Well, we do have a container that's already there, and the viewer actually did comment that, and I didn't see that, so I'll give that a like and a heart. So we're gonna install, and we're gonna go okay. Now, the next question we're gonna cover is, why do we need to give this container its own IP address? So I'm gonna cover that. I actually got some information on why we assign the Raspberry Pi container its own IP address. Now, what I want you to understand what Pi-hole is it's a DNS server. So much like a business who has a bunch of franchises with connected displays, they have a DNS server that they connect to, which then guides those displays to the correct imagery to display to the customers. So when you're deploying a DNS server, you're essentially telling your network where to look for websites on the internet. And the reason why we want a static IP address for it is for, well, it's for consistency. We want to know what IP address is our DNS server, so that if we ever have an issue, that's one of the networking things that we can troubleshoot. The next is router integration. We want to be able to integrate our Pi-hole Docker container with our home network. That is essentially the whole goal, is to make it so that it's checking your internet traffic for bad actors and spam and ads and all that stuff. And that's the whole point of Pi-hole, is to be utilized for your whole network. Now, in other instances, not Pi-hole, but for DNS servers in general, like they're normally publicly facing. If you look at Google 8.8.8.8 or Cloudflare 1.1.1.1, those are publicly facing. They need a static IP address. And well, for consistency, you want to typically try and emulate that for your home network. It's just good practice. The third thing would be external access, like I mentioned previously. So if you're a bigger, Fortune 500 company, you'll more than likely run your own DNS server. The reason for that is that you want your employees doing work-related activities on company paid for products. I have a work laptop for my 9-to-5 job. It connects to a external DNS server that I can't change, and that filters what I can view on my company's internet. Even though I work from home, I'm still expected to abide by my company policies. And one of the ways they ensure that we're doing that as employees is they filter our internet traffic through a publicly facing DNS server. The next thing, the fourth and final thing, is separation of concerns. So if the DNS service runs in a virtual machine, Docker container, or separate physical machine, giving it its own IP helps isolate and manage services more cleanly. So those are 4 reasons why we give a DNS server, whether it's in-home and private, or public a private but still public-facing DNS server. Those are the 4 main reasons why we give a static IP address. Okay, so next question. Let's see. No idea what you did at 543, nor why you did it. So this is when I was searching my home network for a free IP address that I could assign to the DNS server. Again, as I remind you, Pi-hole is a DNS server. So that's what I was doing, and I did go on to explain that you can download a free app on your phone called Net Analyzer, and that'll scan all the devices connected on your network, and it'll and so basically any IP address that doesn't show up is a free IP address on your network. Now, routers typically tend to leave I'm using 192 as an example here. So 192.168.1.2 to .8 are typically reserved on your router and not assigned through DHCP. So for ubiquity, my router uses 192.168.1.2 as its default DNS IP address. Somehow it's binded so that 192.168.1.1 is applicable. But I noticed through doing some digging that it assigns .2 to its internal DNS service. So Unraid in the past has mistakenly assigned .2, and I've had some IP conflicts. Typically .2 to .8 are always free on a home network. Now, I can't speak for every single router manufacturer, but from my experience, Linksys, Motorola from our internet provider, and Alcatel is another one. They typically reserve those for internal services. Next question. Log for Pi-hole on Unraid lists no password, so unable to log in. So the default password should be Pi-hole. If not, there is a line of code you can put in to change the password. Let's see where it is here. One of the viewers actually put that in. Where is it? Right here. So if you open console, you can do Pi-hole set password to set passwords. This is what I used, and it did work for me. Not sure. I guess try one or the other. Some critique. I like to follow along with the guide from someone that seems knowledgeable. Well, I'm not an expert. I'm a technology enthusiast, and thank you for your comment, ZDub588. Duly noted. And then this person here, I guess something with my Pi-hole install was not working right on Unraid, because even though I could log into the interface for Pi-hole, none of my network devices were using it. I changed the DHCP local DNS address to my Unraid server where Pi-hole is installed, but my computer doesn't use it. When I have the Pi-hole server as the only address for the DNS queries, my computer can't access any websites. I just uninstalled Pi-hole because it just doesn't seem to work with the hassle, or doesn't seem worth the hassle. Okay, so I apologize, my mouth is really dry. Still trying to figure that part out with the medical stuff. So for something like this, it's got to be some type of networking issue. So I'm curious what they did, because it's not very well explained here. Not working right. No, log into the web interface. So yes, you can log into the web interface, but if your network's not configured properly, then it's not going to communicate with the DNS server. If your network doesn't have a functioning DNS server that's properly configured, your network is not going to be able to function, or your internal network will function, but you won't be able to access websites outside. And the reason that is because DNS is like an address book for the internet and networks in general. The internet isn't like some finite thing. It is a collection of computers with addresses, much like our houses, and without maps, which is essentially a DNS server, we wouldn't be able to find where we're going. So a DNS server is, a system in the middle that's telling your computer where to access the website or service that you're trying to connect to. If that connection is broken, then of course you're not going to be able to access anything outside of your home network. So let's jump over to the Unraid dashboard. Let's get this guy installed, and we will try and see what happened there. So when you're getting this installed, make sure that you're using the bridge network, the custom bridge network, and that you're picking an IP address within your network scheme or your IP scheme. So for me, that's the 192.168.1 subnet range. So if yours is 10.10.10.0, then you're going to need to pick something in that IP range. My network is my network, and it's probably not the same as yours, probably not configured the same. So a basic understanding of DHCP is, somewhat necessary here when you're trying to install a DNS server. Remember, this is the internet's address book, so we need to make sure that we are deploying it correctly. So I know that this is my subnet here. So that's the IP range that I'm going to work with. I'm going to do 192.168.1.5, sorry, .5, because I know that's free. It was the previous IP address of this DNS server. And yeah, so that's what we're going to set that is for my home network. Now, next thing you want to see here is that we don't want to change any of this. We've given this its own IP address. We don't need to mess with any of this. So we're going to leave all of this alone. So what do we do next? We're just going to click apply. We're going to let this install, and then we're going to start the configuration of this service. So once this is done, we'll jump right back into it. Okay, so that's done. Now, I'm going to head on over to the Docker tab, and we are going to open up the logs. We see here that there's insufficient permissions to set process priority and no database file found. So it created one. So this is up and running, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit, and I am going to give this privilege status, and I'm going to apply. So that completed successfully, and I'm going to come back to the logs. Okay, so no errors this time. So we do want to make sure that we are checking our logs after the initial installation, and we want to make sure that we're not getting any errors. So now that we know we're good to go, we're going to open the container. It's going to ask you for your password. So the default password here is pihole. It's saying it's wrong. So if we get the password wrong, the first thing it's going to do is it's going to tell us how to set the password. So we're just going to copy this. We're going to come back to the Docker, and we're going to open the console. And we're just going to paste in what it asks us to do, and we're going to click OK. Or sorry, enter. And then it's going to ask us to set a password. I'm going to leave mine blank. So I'm just going to hit enter. No more password. If we ever want to come back and set a password, we just put in that same command, press OK, and it's going to ask us for a password. So I'm just going to set mine anyways. For good measure, our new password is set. So we're going to close out of the console, and we're going to go back to our container here, and we're going to put in the password that we just set. So what do we got here? We've got our total queries, which is at 0, our queries blocked, which is at 0, and we've got 162,000 domains on the block list. So how do we connect our clients to this instance? Well, I'm going to connect my iPhone, and we are going to do that together. So let me find the application here. Here we go. And where are we? So we're going to go to settings. We're going to go to Wi-Fi. We're going to open up our Wi-Fi network. And we're going to go down here to our configure DNS. So here I have it set to my router. I'm going to remove that, and I'm going to add a new server. I'm going to put in the IP address for the pihole container that we created, 192.168.1.5. Just going to hit enter and then save. Right off the bat, we see it started doing stuff. So let's just gonna get this out of view here. Make sure I don't have anything open that I shouldn't. Oh, I'm not responding now. Ah, okay. So there we go. Okay. So we're gonna open this back up and we're just gonna search for spam check website. Nope, wrong. Let's do spam test website. Let's open that up. Nope, that's wrong. Ah, but we do see that the queries are working. Um, let's see. Let's do pop-up blocker test. There we go. So we see that the DNS server is working. Yeah. Okay. So let's head on over to the query log. So we see that it is working. It's live update. So we see, yes, it is working here. So let's look at some of the settings here and we'll pop on over to DNS. And we do want to make sure that we are adding our DNS servers that we want Pi-hole to use to actually connect to the internet and display or provide the services that we're trying to use. So I'm actually not a fan of Google's DNS service, so I am going to change mine to Cloudflare. I really like Cloudflare. They've been really good for me and reliable. So I've always tended to use these guys. So make sure that you are selecting the DNS service that you prefer. The next we're going to look at is our DHCP here. Pi-hole can actually run as a DHCP server as well. I do not recommend utilizing this if you're a novice with networking. If you have a custom home lab that has its own network, then by all means, please do play around with this because if you have a good home lab set up, then you've got redundancy and backups, and it's easy to put everything back to the way it was. So this is a great tool to use if you're looking to get into DNS services. So what other things can we do? Well, we can add additional lists, block lists, to our Pi-hole instance. And the way we do that is through the Pi-hole community. This is a do-it-your-own risk thing, though. The community has a lot of good actors, but there are a few bad actors. So make sure you're vetting the lists that you're adding to your instance to make sure that it is legitimate and, not blocking things like Facebook or TikTok, the stuff that people in your house may use. Pi-hole is a great tool. It's a great way for you to really find out what is going on your home network. Now, the way that I connected my iPhone to this DNS server was not really ideal. If I wanted to actually deploy this system for my entire home network, I would ideally go into my router, so my Unify router, and I would edit my DNS server, which, let's head over there. And let's show you what that looks like. So if I go to my settings here and I go to internet and I open up my WAN device here, I've got my primary DNS server and secondary DNS server. Now, if I wanted to, I could put in my, you know what? Let's just do it. So this is now going to use the Pi-hole. So Let's click up. Well, let's get some metrics here. So let's go back to the dashboard. We're at 226 and 22 queries blocked. So let's hit apply and let's see what happens. So nothing yet, but oh, there we go. So we're seeing things starting to pick up now because the entire network is now relying on the Pi-hole DNS service. So if I say, go over to Amazon, we're going to start seeing this pick up here. And if I go over to where the query log, we're going to start seeing, yep, everything's coming through from the router. So we do see that the router is speaking with this DNS service. We do see that it's actively using it. We do see some queries blocked here. So let's see what it's blocking. Ad system, random, Google Appies, more random, more Google Appies, branch.io, Bazaar Voice, whatever the hell that is, Firebase logging. So it is doing its thing. It is, working on the network. Do I use this for my home network? No. Do I use it for individual devices? 100% I do. I use it for my kids' devices to block unsafe websites. And I don't even use like a particular service for that. I just enable safe browsing for them. And then Pi-hole does a great job at filtering out the inappropriate websites. Do I utilize lists? Yes. A couple of the lists that I do use are, about 300,000 lines long. Yeah, I do utilize them, but I also took the time to vet them to make sure they were safe. Do I rely on Pi-hole like on an everyday basis? Me personally, no, I don't use it because I don't filter my internet traffic. I grew up with the internet, so I was born in '86. We had a dial-up connection when I was 8 or 9, and I think it was through CompuServe out of Vancouver, BC. And yeah, so I grew up on the internet. I grew up building computers, finding computers on the side of the road on spring cleaning days and lugging them home on my bicycle and getting them set up. And yeah, so I've learned how to navigate the internet safely as I've grown in years. Kids today are oversaturated with the internet and may not know what is safe and what is not. So yeah. Well, with that said, we're at half an hour now, so I guess I've been babbling a lot, but that was a quick rundown of how to get this set up safely and reliably. If you have any issues, please reach out in the comments or join the Discord server, or there's always the Unraid superbot that I built over on ChatGPT. But all said and done, this is working for me, and I'm happy to troubleshoot any issues that any of the viewers have in the community here. Maybe as time grows, maybe as the Discord server grows, maybe we could look at doing like a group call and maybe do like a Q&A type thing. I don't know. The Discord community is fairly small, but the people who are in it, whenever I jump in and start a conversation, always jump right in. So it's small but mighty, and we've got some great people over there. Please join. It doesn't cost anything. There's no subscription or channel commitment or anything like that to join the server. So please, I encourage you to join if you like. Check out the Unraid Superbot again. Merch store is closing May 15th. Head on over to bcadventure.shop if you want to get some merch. Use the discount code YT10 for 10% off. And yeah, May 15th, I'm shutting it down. And yeah, so if you do want any merch and a way to support the channel, that is one way to do that. Okay, well, I'm going to leave it at that. If you have any questions, again, leave them in the comments. Like and subscribe if you found this video useful, and I will catch you all in the next one. Take it easy, guys.